So today we are going to be learning how to make the panel beret. So I'm going to be making the 6 paneled one. We can make it 8 panel or 6 panel, but I want to make the 6 paneled ones, and I already have my templates. This is my template for making it. This is my pattern for making the design. So I'm going to quickly explain how I arrived at this pattern. So please watch me as I explain. So get a plain paper, a white plain paper for cutting out your pattern, and listen to how I cut out my own pattern. So let me bring the camera closer a bit. So my head circumference is 23. Because I'm going to be making a 6 paneled one, I divided 23 by 6 and it gave me 3.8. It gave me 3.8. So I'm going to add 1 to my 3.8 to make 4.8. That one that I will be adding, 1 inch that I will be adding, is to make up for the seam allowance. I'm going to be sewing half on both sides of the panel. So that is how I arrived at my 4.8. Please note that. So I'm going to draw a line 4.8 below here. 4.8 inches. 4.8 inches. So that's 4.8 inches. Now the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to look for the midpoint of my 4.8. The midpoint of 4.8 would be 2.4. 2.4. So from that 2.4, I'm going to draw a straight line. A straight line, and the length of the line is going to be 8.5 inches. Please note that. So that 8.5 inches line is going to run through the middle of my 4.8 inch. From here to here is 4.8 inch. So I checked out, I tried to look for the midpoint of my 4.8, which is 2.4. So I'm going to draw a line 8.5 inches through the middle. 8.5 inches. So that is my line, 8.5 inches. This is 4.8 inches. This line is 8.5 or 8.5 inches. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and measure 3 inches from the lower part to this part. I'll measure 3 inches and mark it. I think this is my 3 inches. So I'm going to mark it. This 3 inches from here to here. 3 inches. I'll mark it. So that part where we have 3 inches, I'm going to draw a 6 inches line. For that 6 inches line, I'm going to divide it into 2, meaning that on this side of this midline, I'm going to draw 3 inches to the left, 3 inches to the right. That's what I mean. So let's draw it. This 3 inches, then to 6 inches. Then you come to this upper part now, where the 8.5 inches or 8.5 inches stopped. Then you also draw a 1 inch line there at the tip. 1 inch, you make sure you divide the 1 inch into 2 places with, your line will divide the 1 inch into 2 places, meaning that we'll have ½ inch on the left side, ½ inch on the right side. So you draw your 1 inch line that way. So I've drawn my ½ inch line. Now the next thing we want to do now is that we want to connect this point to this point to this point. Same thing goes to this place. This point to this point to this point. We want to connect it now. And please note that we will not be connecting it straight because we don't want a sharp. I don't have what they call that in French curve. I would have used a French curve to draw it, but I'm still going to sketch it out. So we bring it down, then you also join it here. I don't want it to have a sharp curve here. That's why I'm not using my ruler to draw it. The same thing is applicable here. Draw it down to connect this, then draw it to connect the line. We have our panel drawn. So what it means is that ½ inch, because this is the side we are going to be sewing. These sides are going to be sewing. So what it means that we are going to sew out ½ inch this way when we cut out our materials. ½ inch. So that's our seam allowance. ½ inch. So that is how I got my own pattern. And so I'm going to place my pattern on the fabric of my choice. My own fabric is asooke. I'm going to place it on it, and I'm going to cut out 6 panels. So now I've cut out my 6 panels of asooke. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm also going to line my cap. I want my cap to have a lining so that the inner sewing will not show. So I'm going to use a satin fabric, doll face satin, to also cut panels. And so I have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then there is a little loop at the top of the panel beret. So I just cut this fabric 2.5 inches by 1 inch. So I'm going to sew it into a tube to actually place on the beret. So the next thing we'll be doing is that we'll be sewing the berets together. We'll be sewing it together. So we're going to sew 3 together, 3, then we'll sew another 3 before we now join it together. Please note that we're going to be sewing 3, and like I drew here, the way I drew it here, your sewing will start from here, this point on your fabric. That's where your sewing will start, from this point and down to wherever it's supposed to get to. But always note that your sewing must start from this point. Must start from, not that you come and start sewing here and we have space here. Because if you start sewing somewhere here, there will be space when you are done sewing your beret. So you have to start from this point down, on the other side down. So that's the way we are going to be sewing. So like I said, we'll be sewing in 3s. We'll sew this. Let me draw chalk on my fabric. I'm using asooke. So you can see where I drew my line. The midpoint. You sew it down, open it up, pick another one, and sew it too. So we will sew 3 together, another 3 together. The same is applicable to our satin too that we are going to use to line it. So let me quickly sew and come back. So I'm done sewing. I've attached 3 on one side, another 3 on the other side, making 6. 3, 3. I've sewn it. This is 1, this is 3, this is another 3. And so we are going to be joining it together. We're going to be joining it together. I've also sewn my tube that I'll be placing at the top. And so we are going to fold the tube this way. We fold it this way. Then we put it at the middle here. Put it at the middle. Position the second, you make the right side of your fabric face the right side. Then you position this at the middle one. This is the way we do it. Then we sew from here down to this part. So that's the way we will do it. I hope you get my explanation. Let me explain again. This is our 3 panel joined together, another 3. You know we are making 6. So this is the tube. I've sewn it. You fold the tube into 2 this way. Then position it. This is the right side of the fabric. This is the wrong side. This is the place we sew. So position it this way. Put this tube. Fold it and put it this way on it. Then take the other right side of your 3 panel that you have sewn together and place it on it midpoint to midpoint. So So when you do that, then you come to the ends and sew the end right from this side down to this side. So I'm going to sew. The same thing is applicable also to the lining, which is the satin. The only thing is that the satin will not be having that tube at the top. So that's the same thing that will be applicable to the lining. So I'm done sewing it. As you can see, I've joined them together, joined this together, and also joined this together. So we'll be attaching an elastic as the band. This is not the regular elastic. I think we get this elastic from those that sell shoemaking things. So this is the elastic. The measurement of the elastic is 20 inches. I measured 20 inches, then I joined it together. I sewed out half an inch. So I sewed out half inch. The seam was half inch, so the length is 20 inches. So I'm going to attach it to the tip of the beret. You can as well use your fabric to tape your beret. It depends on you, but I prefer to use an elastic. So the next thing is we are going to do is we want to insert our elastic. So you are going to take your lining, which is the satin, turn it to the wrong side. Then you are going to also take your fabric already sewn, my asooke now. So I'm going to be making the right side face the right side. So I'm tucking it in. The right side will face the right side. So that's what I'm going to do first. Tuck it in, ensure that the right side faces the right side. And so the next thing I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be inserting my elastic. So I'm going to be inserting my elastic. I'll put in the elastic. I'll make sure the elastic goes down a bit because I need the tip of the elastic to show when I turn my fabric over. So I'm going to attach the elastic to each round now. You know that the head circumference is actually 23 and my elastic is 20. You know it's elastic, so it's going to make up. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to be pinning the four points here. 4 points. I'm going to be pinning 4 points here. I'm pinning it so that to stay in place so that I can sew it. I'm trying to insert my elastic like I explained earlier. So I'm going to just pin it in 4 places to hold it in place. Like I said, tuck in the elastic properly because we want the tips of the elastic to show when we turn our beret inside out. So now I've held it down in 4 different places, so I'm going to sew now. And so when I'm almost done sewing, I'm going to leave a little space that I'll be able to turn my beret inside out. I'll be able to use to turn my beret inside out. And so when I turn it inside out, I'll close up that part, then our beret is ready. So I'm going to sew it now and show you the outcome. So this is the outcome. It's looking beautiful. I'm going to wear it on my mannequin now. Very beautiful. So this is it. Thanks for watching. Kindly subscribe to our channel, kindly like our video and make your comments. In places you don't understand, you can ask questions. Thank you for watching.